I told him specifically, I said, dating an entrepreneur is a whole different ballgame. We're borderline sociopaths.
It's a different species.
Yeah. Wake up, Kristelle, wake up. Okay, so that's where you started with the clapping. If only I knew some cheers. I only know like drinking songs. Okay. It totally didn't make sense. Okay, so today's conversation, hanging out between two friends. Oh wait, wrong podcast.
It's like, is it? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah. Zach Galifianakis is like off today.
Is he coming?
No.
He's not. All right.
Today's conversation, we're doing relationships. Probably one of the more fun, exciting topics that we've had in a really long time. Which is like...
Don't bother watching any of our other ones. This one, just watch.
It's okay. We only have one listener anyways. I'm just kidding. No, I'm really excited about this topic because I think it's molded me as an individual. It's really had a part into my professional life too, my personal life, etc. And you have some really great stories to share about relationships, which I'm really excited about. Show people your mug. I think it's cute. And I was like, what does that say?
It is cute. It says my puns are quality.
Quality.
Yeah, a friend gave it to me. She and I discovered after a while of our friendship that we are both fans of, I was going to say punsters, but I don't want to put any pressure, like now I'm supposed to come up with puns, because folks are going to be like, oh, let's hear some puns. But she and I both love puns, and we do pun exchanges often. She doesn't live here, so we text. And when she was here visiting me, I got her a mug that said, I wet my plants. Because she's a big gardener. And I don't know why. I couldn't stop laughing at it at the store. I was like, this is going to be your mug. You wet your plants.
I like how the koala is like literally doing push-ups.
He's excited. He's about it. He or she is excited to be part of my life now.
They are very excited by doing push-ups on the tea cup.
Maybe it's like hanging on for life. Mm-hmm. They're pretty, I'm going to assume this is a caffeinated tea because they're pretty sleepy animals in general.
Yeah, and he's got like a subtle smirk.
Yeah, it's like pretty alert. He's like, I see you with your wordplay. All right, lady, I like it. I like you.
Tell us about your best friend.
Well, I have every person in my life. I'm gonna tell you a cheesy thing, but it's a real thing. Every friend I have in my life, every person in my life is one of the best people I've ever had in my life. And I, too, am most excited for this episode. Of all the ones we've done so far, this one touches me most closely. Mm-hmm. In all honesty, I would not be here, not here or here, without the people in my life. Mm-hmm. I recognized a couple of weeks ago, I was at a grocer, and I was getting into my car. I was running late for work, and this woman stopped me and needed help, and I'm like, I don't have time for this right now. I don't want to. This is uncomfortable. Like, I don't do this. But something in me was like, Jace, pause. Mm-hmm. Talk to this woman. Mm-hmm. And so I did. And in short, I learned a bit about her story. And she was recently homeless. And and a lot of it had to do with the relationship she was in that was harmful, and just all of these life circumstances that had happened. And she was very genuinely embarrassed with her situation. Mm-hmm. And she was so humbly and bashfully asking for help. Mm-hmm. And I realized, like, one, we've all been in different circumstances we did not expect that have brought us to places we maybe do not feel super thrilled about. And I thought, what is the difference between her and I? Mm-hmm. Where I have been in scenarios where I should have been on the street, where my life should have looked a whole lot worse than it did. Mm-hmm. So I was like, what is the difference? People. Mm-hmm. It is the relationships in my life that have kept me off the street, mm-hmm. that have brought me into the opportunity for health and growth, mm-hmm. that have bolstered me when I didn't think I was worth any of those things, mm-hmm. that believed in me when I couldn't. And I just realized that's it. The only difference. It's not money. It's not resources. The only difference between me and being on the streets is my relationships.
Yeah, relationships for sure. So about your best friend, have they been in your life for quite some time, and
Yes. So my best friend, this is such a hard thing because now someone's gonna watch and be like, "Wait, I thought I was," but
We all have different relationships
Yes.
and people in our lives.
my friend who knows me best and who we talk every single day. You want dirt on Jace? This is the person who has all of it.
Yeah.
His name is Eric. We've known each other since Austin, so we've known each other for many years. He also is a self-mastery junkie like I am, so we bonded over that. And he is someone who he's my ride or die.
Yeah.
All the way. He's the one whose wedding I helped plan, his surprise wedding in January.
Oh my God, the tears and it was great.
That was it. Yes. So we actually were having a conversation the other day because there's something that we'll have different things in each other's lives that it's like, I don't agree with that. I don't like the choices that you're making for these reasons. And then it's like, okay, I hear you. I'm going to do it anyway. I will receive the consequences as they come. And I know that if it blows up in my face or whatever, that he'll be like, what do you need now? There will be no, I told you so. There will be no, why did you do that? It'll just be like, what do we need now to help you keep going? And I thought about it. I said, why is it so easy for us to be friends the way that we are? What is at the foundation of our love for one another? And it's allowance.
Yeah.
We allow one another to be as we are over all these years. And we can call each other out. We can do whatever. And you just get to be who you are at any stage, no matter what. And you're supported, loved, and accepted.
Did you ever have or seen that meme from Grey's Anatomy where it was like Meredith and Sandra Oh's character that was like, she is my person where she's willing to take out the dead body with me.
Right.
That has always been like the underlying, not like if I ever hurt somebody, would they like carry out a dead body with, but I mean like, who in my life can be called my person? And I love that because that's Eric, right? That's the person. However, I understand like your family's really close to you or your other best friend is really close to you for different reasons or whatever that might be. So I get that. I feel that. And I think that when I first opened the agency, my best friend, there's a couple people that I told about the why of the agency. And there's several people I told the why, and there were several people I told to make sure that they would approve of it and not get in my way or make me doubt myself. And one was my mentor, which is for another episode for sure.
Okay.
One was my mom. My mom was very important to me to get her opinion because not only did she need to financially help me with rent, living expenses, etc., but my mom was a clear indicator of my level of my level of focus and my level of attention towards the situation. She had to help me out with my son, and that's what my mom did. And so, what was really funny because I told her, and I'll never forget this conversation. I'm excited to talk about the mentor conversation because that was a whole different conversation. But the conversation with my mom, when I told her, I said, Mom, I'm opening up my own company now. It's going to get a little scary. And she goes, well, you were going to do it anyways. She was like, I've been waiting for this conversation. I know you always would. And it was really enlightening because then I was already at like 50 miles an hour. And then all of a sudden when she said that, which is her way of like excitement, I just went full 100. Full 100 whenever she told me that situation. And then I told my best friend about it and she was just like, well, that's cool. I was like, okay, cool. But like, I think, we're talking about relationships. Like we have our best friends, like my best friend, like I am willing to go up to bat for her, take a bullet for her. Oh my God, that's so funny. I've been her maid of honor twice.
Also some acceptance and allowance in the mix with that story, I'm sure.
Which is even more hysterical because I've planned 2 bachelorette parties and she never showed up to either of her bachelorette parties. First one was family came in town, so it was poorly timed.
Okay.
Because it was like the day before, 2 days before her wedding, and all of us were like, well, that's not going to work. We were like so young, even still in college. We had no idea what we were doing. The second time around was COVID.
Those are both acceptable reasons.
So that's why she's planning my bachelorette party with the rest of our squad.
And as a long-term plan of vengeance, you will not be there.
No, I should. I should fuck up the plans and be like, I don't know how I ended up in Hawaii, y'all.
Were we not doing
I thought this is what we're supposed to be.
well, I guess I'll just be by myself enjoying it.
Peace.
Have fun.
Yeah. So, no, I'm excited because I told her, I said, this bachelorette party, one of the things I really wanted to do is all of us just spend time together and get to know each other.
Yeah.
And I said, and most importantly, none of us had a bachelorette party like this. Rage, surprises, wigs, a lot of alcohol.
Oh, like rage, like we gonna rage, not like rage, like y'all are gonna fuck some shit up.
Like,
you're angry.
I'm terrified. Like, people are scared that they might not last till 3 a.m. rage. Like, that's the type of raging that we're talking about.
Okay.
Which I really...
was like 3 a.m. Oh my God.
I know, which I'm like, let's go.
Staying up that late.
I know. I'm like, it's almost 3 o'clock here, and I'm like, I'm tired, but we'll see what happens.
Right.
I'm hoping that they scheduled power naps. I don't know. I doubt it.
Yeah, that'd be a boss move.
Yeah.
We're adults at this point.
Yeah, but
We've got to be napping.
Yeah, we gotta be. We have to be napping.
And if you'll check your itineraries, we'll now be moving on from the strip club to the napping session. Yeah. Enjoy the next 45 minutes of your evening.
Don't forget your Red Bull. Anyways, no, so I'm really excited for my, not only the opportunity to spend quality time with my sorority sisters, which really built foundational elements to relationships that I had, but my mom and my aunt are actually very much a part of my life. They're key relationships too. Not only are they coming to the bachelorette party and like staying in the peripheral, which is hilarious, but we're also just really, it's the core group of women around me.
Yeah.
That I'm going to see next week, which is why we won't have a podcast next week. I don't know. So
I was like, I might just come take over and do a random one that you'll be surprised on when we release it.
You're like, I thought we were on episode 20. No, we're episode 5. Anyways, yeah. So I think one of the things we also wanted to talk about too, how relationships have really evolved. The different personas that we all have, right? We wanted to talk about the evolution of how relationships played a part of success. And I always talked about how, the relationships for me might have been in the peripheral, not important, not with people I really wanted to be with, toxic people, narcissistic people, etc. Like we're talking like dudes, right? Dudes I've dated or anything like that. But I will never forget telling somebody once, I've told multiple people this in my professional life. I've said, if you ever wanted to own a company or own a business, you've got to get whatever's happening at home down on lock, because if that relationship's not supportive of you owning a business or being on your own, it's going to be incredibly difficult. Yeah. That's what I've always said.
And not only being on lock and clean and at least having some kind of system in place, but they have to be on board all the way because they'll have to step in. To help. Like that, I was doing a little consulting with a new entrepreneur this week, and I was saying and it's her first entrepreneurial endeavor. I'm like, you are walking into one of the hardest things you will ever experience in your life. Everything you've been running from is about to surface, and you're banking your income on it, and your value, and all these. I'm like, it's a shit show that we talked about in a previous episode that people aren't anticipating. And stuff's going to fall through the cracks. Laundry, dishes, grocery shopping, human maintenance, all of those things. And to have someone on board who is willing to help and just put a meal in front of you is everything. Where the flip side is them getting on you on, why isn't this getting done? And you're letting this fall through the cracks. And, you were supposed to take care of this and you didn't. It's like they're completely outside of the reality of how consuming it is to be in a C-level, to be starting a business or anything like that. So not only do they have to be like, I love this idea for you, but they got to be like, and I recognize that's going to mean you're going to be showing up very differently in this relationship, especially in the beginning. And by beginning, I mean 3 to 5 years. Yeah.
I remember when the night that maybe it was like the morning after or like the following days, I told Spencer, I said, Spencer's my fiance. We're getting married in September. For those of you that are the second listener that might not know who I am. So I told him specifically, I said, dating an entrepreneur is a whole different ballgame. We're borderline sociopaths.
It's a different species.
Yeah. And I'll never forget there was like mutual friends of ours, and I was like, here's a perfect example. So-and-so, they weren't together because sometimes they just have to work like 60 to 80 hour days. And sometimes you want your partner to like mentally be there, but they're just not.
They can't.
They're like super distracted or they just don't feel that way. And that was, I would say, out of all the things, the schedule wasn't a big problem. The lack of income wasn't a big problem. The fact that Spencer had to step in as stepdad wasn't a problem. It was whenever we would be sitting in the car and I would be like mentally zoned out, that would really bother Spencer.
Yeah.
And and it wasn't that I was zoned out. I was focused on something else related to work or not even related to work.
Right. It's hard to turn off.
It can be very hard to turn off. And I think that's why I've learned how to like mentally compartmentalize, what I'm doing. But at the same time, Spencer wasn't working because he was just still in school after, getting out of the military. And then now it's a different tone because he's like, his mode is always in work. Right. And for the first time, in a long time, like after we got him out today, I got him out today, for more than 4 hours, he didn't talk about work. Yeah. So he's starting to get it, right?
Yeah, that harmony.
It's very difficult to have a successful business because you learn relationships at work that over time, it's better to understand what relationships at work can be like so you can be a better partner when you're at home, whatever that might look like. And I'll never forget, like, there's sometimes I give the tutorial to staff, like, hey, if you've never taken the 5 love languages before, I really recommend that you do, because we're not asking for you to necessarily, like, fall in love with somebody at work, because that's obviously
Please
awkward.
Don't do that.
Yeah, that's a human resources conversation you don't want to have, right? But at the same time, it's like, we'll take, one team member, for example. This team member admitted very proudly, like, I'm an active service person. When somebody does an active service for me, or when I tell them to do something and they do it, that's when I know that they care, that they listen, that's how they absorb. There's another person that's like, I really appreciate a gift, that I'm a gifter. I like to show my love through gifting. But at the same time, I don't like to receive gifts for myself. I like to spend quality time with somebody. And so, like, those make a challenge, like meetings. You can spend quality time with somebody by having, like, a one-on-one conversation in a meeting. You might have somebody that might come in and they have a better way of, like, communicating because of the fact that they understand, like, if they need something, you're able to get them, like, physically get them something. So I think that relationships at home very much parallel the relationships at work. So
one of my best lessons in relationships was in my first business. I had a business partner and we were equal partners. Solely business. There was we had been friends beforehand, but there was no romantic anything like that ever. And I'm telling you, we both realized, I think it was the same moment or within the same, like, span where we're like, oh my God, we're a married couple and this business is our baby. And it really was. Like, all of the turmoil that comes up in a regular, romantic relationship was there. And even decisions on, how are we dealing with conflict? What happens when, the baby is going through this next stage of development that we don't know how to handle? Like, it was the like PhD level of learning about relationships is running a business with someone. Yeah. And in time we learned, like, oh, we don't. Yeah. We got divorced, right? We're like, we don't want to do this. And we look at raising a business very differently and on all of those things. And we didn't have that conversation beforehand. Yeah. I think if we're talking relationships, we can't not talk communication. Yeah. Where what you just described with Spencer, on the when you're with me, I need you to be with me. Yeah. And then I can be okay when you're not because you're, doing all of the other things as well. And knowing, like, okay, this is what my life's going to look like. And here's what I have to offer. Is that going to be acceptable? Or even I went to a movie with a friend this weekend. And in my mind, I was rushing around. It was a busy day. And I'm like, okay, that'll be our time together is going to this movie. So while he's driving us there, I'm going to knock out some of these emails and take care of some of the things that I've been putting off. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to use that time for this. And we got in the car and within 45 seconds, not even a minute, he goes, what you doing? Because he was like, we're having time together. Yeah. What are you doing? And I was like, oh, dick move, Jace. Like, this person has spent time. Time is my love language. Yeah. And here, this person has gifted me their time and I'm over here using it for work. And so that was a very selfish, like, I'm going to use that space while he's driving. I'll catch up on some stuff, where he was like, oh, I'll drive us so we have that extra time together. Yeah. And it was that communication. And he did it, passively, like, I'm not okay with this situation. But I had to realize, like, oh, we had a different idea of how this was going to be used. So having that communication where I could have said, hey, I'm so glad we'll get this movie and we can talk after the movie, but I need 10 minutes to do this or whatever, but I didn't. I just assumed, right? And so we were on different pages. So that communication is so key.
Yeah. I'm a PR practitioner at heart, right? And crisis comes up. And I'll never forget that there are times that it doesn't seem like a crisis. There are times where it genuinely is a crisis. And I'll be eating dinner and I get a phone call and I get an email and I just... It's the unfortunate side of business, but crisis never stops. That's when, somebody's time, reputation is on the line, and it could be as unhealthy as a physical heart attack or, an attack on somebody, et cetera. So sometimes when I'm at home and I get a phone call that I'm not expecting at 7:00 in the evening, and I see whose caller ID it is, that's when I genuinely set to worry, and I say, I should probably take this call. It hurts to see my family walk away from the dinner table, but whenever they know the tone. Yeah. They know the tone, and I said, I have a crisis on my hands. And they're like, okay, we'll be in the bedroom. Or I'm going to step out and go to my office, like my home office, whatever that might be. So I think that's one of the challenges that our family has had to learn, is that sometimes the work never stops. Luckily, there was only like 2 or 3 things that have happened in the 9 years that we've had. And even my son, which that's a relationship on its own, to really dive into. Even my son has said, Mom, you do a really good job of, like, when you're at home, you're not working. Or you tell us when you're working. Or you tell us when you need to work and we leave you alone. Like, he has told me that I do a really great job of, like, separating that. And that's a really big compliment. That's something I'm really proud of, because my son was never always around. My custody situation kind of prevented that. So, and on the flip side, his dad will say, like, oh, I'm working, et cetera. And Jonathan is like, well, my dad's always working, which is hilarious because, I have 2 full-time jobs. He only has 1. Right. But the fact that my son complimented me, I'm like, well, I'll take it. I'll take the compliment where I can get it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I think something that we talk about entrepreneurs being a totally different breed of person.
Different breed.
It really is something that people who are not in that space, and no, one is not superior to the other. No. We're all here to do different things. I really believe that. But those that are pursuing a path of their own usually are doing it because they have a vision or a passion that they're called, almost at a level of compulsion for some of us, to bring into the world. And that gets really hard. This was something that came up with my domestic partner in Austin, where we were in counseling. Great counselor. And we were supposed to, like, write out our priorities and all of these things. And he had me at the top of his priority list. Now, was he showing up that way? It's debatable. But in his mind, I was top priority. And he was not my top priority. My mission and purpose were. And the counselor was like, Jace, I notice, that your beloved is not at the top of your list, and, do we need to look at this and all that stuff? And I had to be honest, and I said, I have looked at it. I've spent years looking at this. This is my top priority. Yeah. That does not mean I do not love him. It doesn't mean I'm not going to show up to the best of my ability. But the truth of it is, I came into the human embodiment to do these things. Yeah. And if I get to love someone and have a beloved by my side as part of that, F yeah. Bring it on. I'm about it. But it's not why I'm here necessarily. And that was hard for him. Yeah. It was very hard.
Well, and it was hard for me. I'll talk about the beginnings of ABC. ABC is the Asian Business Collaborative. It's a nonprofit focused on Asian-owned businesses here in New Mexico. And I'll never forget during the pandemic, which the pandemic either really broke relationships apart or really brought them together. It was very obvious that the pandemic, like, changed a lot of lives, right? Well, when, I won't talk about the origin story of ABC. It's online, asianpibc.org, right? But if you watch that donor video, I explain, the beginnings of ABC. But one part of the beginning that I didn't that I don't tell many people, not on purpose, it never comes up unless it's a topic about relationships. So I remember when I picked up my lunch, the dinner, that was the origin of how ABC was born. I picked it up, I went home, I ate it with my family, and I said, I've got to do this. And I said, guys, I'm about to start a nonprofit. My guys being Spencer and my son Jonathan. And I said, I have to do this. I feel so bad. I really want to start this nonprofit. And they said, it's going to be a lot of hard work. And I said, I know. And it wasn't that they were supportive. They were worried about me. If they were to tell me like, well, that's going to harness a lot of time away from us and we don't like the idea, then I would have reconsidered. I would have been upset, but I would have reconsidered because I wouldn't have gotten to do my mission, my excitement, what I'm passionate about, etc. But they said, it's going to be a lot of work. Both of them, like identically, they were like, it's going to be a lot of work. And they have been so forgiving and understanding it's been a lot of work, but they've been so understanding because it's been a lot of work that I wouldn't have been able to start ABC without their concern because they were concerned about me. They were like, we know you're going to do it and you do it very well, but it's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah, are you ready for it? Yeah. Everything lined up.
And I think that was a perfect example of like, I really needed their blessing. I really needed their blessing because they knew that I was going to sacrifice time. I'll never forget that when Jonathan was like 7 or 8, I was like, hey, I want to run for office, like public service, politician work, etc. But in my head, I didn't finish the sentence. I was like, when I'm like retired, right? I'm 35. Like when I'm in my 60s, I'll run for office. Or maybe over time, whenever the time is right and the financial perspective is good, like I'll run for office. And a lot of them were like, I remember a lot of people are like, oh yeah, you'd be great for office, but they think that I'm going to run tomorrow. I'm like, no, I'm going to run in the future.
Yeah.
I didn't finish the sentence with my son. I didn't finish the sentence, and then all of a sudden, again, my son was like 6 or 8. I can't remember the number. He starts crying. And I was like, why are you crying? Why are you crying right now? I said, what's wrong? And he's like, you don't spend enough time with me as it is. You're not going to be able to spend time with me now. And I was like, oh, wait, I'm so sorry. Like, that's not what I meant. Like, I'm going to run for office down the road. Like, not now. And I promise not ever. But then in my mind, I'm like, no, you're definitely not going to run for office. Because not now.
Not now, yeah.
And then ABC happened and he gave me that answer. And I was like, he's open to my ideas. He's open to supporting me. But my son's opinion is as important as my fiance's opinion. But then afterwards, like, my son is now 15. I was like, eventually over time, I'm going to run for office again. And he's like, well, I'm waiting. And I was like, dude, you don't remember when you cried? And he's like, well, yeah, but you're going to do it anyways.
And it's different. The needs of a 15-year-old are very different than the needs of an 8-year-old.
But, like, I'll never forget 8-year-old Jonathan crying because that's when I knew my priority list changed.
Yeah.
Right? And I respect what you have because I would say the same thing if I didn't have Jonathan and Spencer in my life. Even with the wrong partner, I would say my priorities, my passions in life would not include that person.
Yeah, even with the right partner. And it's a good point you bring up. I do have the luxury of not having kids or a family. There is something different about success as a single person in the world, as a free agent. And I have been in relationship and living with people and whatnot in that, but it's different. And I don't have the pressure of another relying on me. I have my dogs, but that's very different. I don't have these considerations to make. And I have an equal human adult that's making their own choices in it as well, where it's not me putting it on them. Though I will say that me not being, my ex not being my top priority did come back to bite me in the butt in my most recent relationship, where the things that drew me to him were his ambition and his skills and talent. I mean, he's like one of the most impressive people I've come across. And the thing that locked me in, it was like, he has all of these ambitions and he's actually putting forth daily effort toward them. Blew my mind. He's not just talking about it. It's not a future thing. He's actively working on all these different areas regularly. And I was like, I got to get in on this. Like, can I absorb this? Is it contagious? Like, can I just get close
Surround
to
yourself
it?
around successful people.
Exactly. And I'm like, I want to learn from this. And he's disciplined and all of these things. And that was like top for me. I was like, wow, this guy's really cool. I want to get to know him more. It was also the reason we split, because he finally came to his own reality that I was not his priority. This relationship would not be his priority. That he was at a point where he was deciding to put his time and energy exclusively into what he's here to do. And part of me was like, I love a good cosmic joke, so love the irony in that. Also, like,
I'm sorry, but like, it's cosmic
it
irony.
is. Yeah. The universe was like, hey, girl, you remember this?
Hey, what's up?
Welcome to being on the other side. And it hurt, but I also understood it and I respected it. And though it was tough and it wasn't, the choice I would have made, and in my mind, I'm like, I think we can still make it work. And is there a way that I can do, and I did all the mental gymnastics for it until finally I realized I respect that. And would I be okay being lower on the priority list with this person that is, I'm basically going to get like the scraps of their time? And I had to realize, no, time is my love language, and you're telling me right now you're not going to have time for me, and whatever's left over I might get. I was like, oh, that'll destroy me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that came back. That came back on me.
Yeah. And I'm like, at first I was like, no, don't believe, like, it's just, it's all, you're in a different time or a different place in your life, and it's not cosmic irony, but I'm like,
it is.
Yeah. Okay, so here's my irony part. I'll tell you, I don't know if it's cosmic irony. It's definitely vendor irony. So I was dating a guy that's not Spencer before the company started, and I would say he was he was motivating. He was not my motivation to start the company.
Okay.
Completely different,
They
right?
are. Yeah, I like that.
It was eventually over, like, and when I think about different, it's like, you know how U.S. history teachers say that as long as you remember presidents, you can remember history in a good timeline. That's what one of the LaQueva teachers said.
I feel
right?
both.
And so I feel the same way. Like every
either.
boyfriend's had a mile marker or a mental marker in in history for me.
Yeah, I always joke that my life is a lot like the Bible. There's a man's name at the top of every chapter.
Yeah, John, Paul, Peter, and Bono. I don't know. Like, that sounds terrible. I hope my dad's not listening. Anyways, so like that's a perfect example, right? So there was a guy I was dating in that particular moment in time when I started the company, and I didn't care his opinion or not if I was starting it. I told him I'm going to start it. However, I care about Spencer's opinion of success now of the company because there's more on the line for us as a couple, and we're all invested into it, right? So, but so here was the irony part. So I was dating a guy and he was great. So much fun. So much fun. And
is he single now? No, just kidding.
Story for another day.
Let me hear the end of the story.
Story for another day. He's married to a woman 30 years younger than him.
Oh, kidoki.
Yes. So good for him. So he's still
says with genuine enthusiasm.
Yes, I love it, and I'm way more successful than he is. That's all I care about. Anyways, so this guy, funny as fuck. We end up hiring him as a vendor for like something in the office, right? Yeah. And COVID hit, and we were just like, I don't really think we need this anymore, this particular equipment. And so I said, I think it's time. And I was like, can I get a copy of the contract? They're like, okay, if you want to get rid of it, just go ahead and let us know. We can pick it up. I was like, okay, that's cool. We were renting it anyways. We were leasing it. And then my favorite line that I used to him was, we had a really good run. When he broke up with me and I picked up my stuff from my house, he said the exact damn thing to me. We had a good run. Mine was just tied to about $1,200 worth of time, not $2,400 worth of work over time. When I said we had a good run, I was like, yes, fuck you too.
Those can feel good. I know it's petty. I know we shouldn't like them, but they feel good. Sorry, humanity.
Yeah, 100%.
It happens.
Well, and then I also too, like I look back at the exes that I had, which I was like, okay, this is like the perfect time. I remember one time I saw my ex in like a parking lot, and he was with his current girlfriend that, you know, they're still together, they have a baby, etc. And he's like, "Hey, Kristelle, how are you?" And I was like, "Oh, hey, what's up? Long time no see." Yada yada yada. And then I looked back at him, and I see him looking back at me with like winking and suggesting something. Well, and it was funny because I was like, "Well, you're a fucking dumbass." And so, yeah, we all know how you feel about that. And then I remembered, for some of you that don't know, I actually have a 2014 Camaro. The 2014 Camaro is a baby bee, like a baby bumblebee. It's not fast. It's a V6. So baby bee was parked right next to him while I said goodbye or said hi, whatever it was. And I giggled to myself because I said, you know, one day I'm going to buy a BMW and like run it into his house. Like this happened when I was like really young. It was like 16. I was so pissed he broke my heart. And then I look at him looking back at me, fast forward later, right? I see him looking back, looking at me, and then I see my car, and I was like, I have a way better car than he does.
Oh, man.
Oh,
See
man.
episode 1 for success and
man.
status and defining success.
Because, you know, sometimes the revenge is your motivator, right? Or sometimes
It can be.
It can be, or it can be like, look at where I've come since the moment that you left, right? Like, I think sometimes those can be, especially for a strong woman, huge motivator of success, I think.
I am on very good and loving terms with just about every
Nope, none
ex
of mine.
from my adult life. There's some that the disconnect they were having a really hard time with, where it was like the transitioning to friends just wasn't happening, and so it was like, okay, then you're not an appropriate person to have in life. But even my harshest breakups, like, it's very that's why I love this topic. Relationships are so important to me, and keeping bridges when they're appropriate to keep, honoring people, like being kind, showing up respectfully and lovingly is so important to me. And I like to make sure, like, I don't want anyone in the world wanting harm to come my way. I don't want that energy where it's like, oh, I hope you feel, because I think that shit is impactful.
So you don't condone the fact that I wanted to buy a BMW and run it into his house? I'm
Not
just kidding.
for the sake of your car and your potential precious body. I do not love that.
No, that's okay.
But so, and for me, like,
Totally a joke from back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, now I have these allies who we care about one another and show up for one another in each other's lives. Even if that's just like, hey, I saw your content online. You're kicking ass. I love it. You know, I shared it with my family or whatever. Like, we're all really proud of you. Yeah. I would rather have that in my space than, you know, ending like the blow up or running my vehicle into someone's car, right? And like, so I know it's an annoying thing to say, but I learned there's a term for it: conscious uncoupling. I was joking with my mom because she was commenting about my most recent breakup, and she said, honey, you really handle things so maturely in these situations. And I told her, if only I was as good at the relationship as I was at ending the relationship, I might have some success in these arenas.
We almost Siarza almost represented the woman who created the book Conscious Uncoupling.
Oh, cool.
And the reason why Gwyneth Paltrow became so famous for it is because she read the book. I think it was like Kathleen something. I don't remember the name of the individual. I'll find it later. But Gwyneth Paltrow read her book. Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris something from I can vision the hippie band that she used to be married. Chris Martin. Oh. So when Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin broke up and divorced, it was conscious uncoupling too.
Okay, and it's so possible. And here's in my mind,
it's very possible.
If I love someone or care about them, that doesn't end the moment that scenario ends. Like, I'm a Virgo. Once you're in for life. Like that, it's hard to get in, but once you're in, it's an all access pass for life, unless you act foolishly.
Yeah.
Then, like, I do have boundaries and things now.
Yeah.
But I've learned, like, you don't know when you're going to need someone in life. You don't know what scenario you're going to be in.
Yeah.
And the more people I can have that are willing to support me or just want good things for me, the better. Because yes, I have my like inner circle of people that I talk to every day and that know absolutely every deep dark secret and things like that. And people who know every deep dark secret, but I won't talk to for months or like years. And then you come back together and already it's just like you're in the middle of a sentence. Yeah. Right? Like that's, and I've learned, I think about, and I know we're going to do an episode on this, spoiler alert, that at the end of my life, the thing that will have mattered to me most are my relationships, are the people I've loved. Yeah. And when we go and we ask people, how many books are there written about people on their deathbeds, and we look back and it's like, what mattered to you? And it's not how much I worked or whatever. It might be legacy. It might be their purpose fulfilled, those things. But relationships come up at the top for most people's list. And so I've learned like to start honoring those now, which is very difficult for me. But it pays off even. So you know and love Charlie Bear, one of my doggies. And the truth is, he is 15. Time is coming within the next year or two where he will transition on. And basically his whole life I've been terrified of this, but especially since he hit double digits. And I know like that will be one of the hardest things in my life. I mean, this dog means more to me than anything. You can check out my talk online, My Best Worst Decision, all about this doggy. But I've started planning, and a big piece of that is reaching out to that inner circle and saying, I'm going to need you to drop everything.
Yeah.
I will not be able to function. A part of me will go. Like I always say, Indiana's my heart and Charlie's my soul. A part of my soul will leave me. Like, how do you get through that? And so it's calling on my relationships to say, I'm not going to be able to stand. I'm going to need you to do it for me.
Yeah.
And now, even though I'm still, like, breaks my heart to think about, I know I don't have to go through it alone. I know I'll have all the help that I'll need. I know that these people will, and they will drop everything in their lives to come stay with me, to come do. My friend in New York is like, I will come do your laundry, like whatever you need.
Yeah.
I will tell my boss, peace out, I gotta go. My friend's hurting, I gotta do her laundry.
Yeah.
And he will.
Yeah.
And so that's where I've recognized life doesn't stop. Conflict in life doesn't stop. Challenges, the trials, all of that stuff's going to keep coming. It's the human condition. It's why we're here for whatever reason. I don't know. And the thing that makes it bearable and possible for me
is your relationships.
100%.
Yeah. So it's funny that you talk, and I won't touch up on Charlie Bear because he's the most adorable thing in the world. Where we differ is like, it's not the relationships for me. The relationships are a very big part of my life too, but I see it as a reputation situation, right? Like, I don't mean to be a people pleaser. And I don't want to be a people pleaser because if somebody disagrees with me, I've been naturally trained to say, well, discourse is good, right?
Yeah.
So I actually don't talk to my exes because there was one rule that Spencer said to me and people were like, well, did he tell you not to talk to your exes? And I was like, no, actually. It was more like a golden rule. He gave us, and I adopted and I appreciate and I love, and he said, treat each other the way that we want to be treated. What would you do? He goes, I always wanted to operate, or I asked the question, I was like, if an ex ever called me and an ex wanted to like start talking again, how would you feel about it? And he goes, treat me the way you would want me to treat you in the situation. And I was like, okay, yeah. No, I totally like that, right? I really appreciated that because if, let's say, for example, I was to hear him talking to an ex or a woman that wanted to come back in his life, like, of course, I'd feel very uncomfortable about it. And he said the same thing. He didn't say the same thing, but that's how I had operate. That's his golden rule. I was like, okay, cool. That's great. And I purposely have left, like, I'm a Capricorn, die hard definition Capricorn, stubborn, very hard lover, like, meaning we're difficult to love. But when we love, we are so hard-headed because we are just the ringer. Like, we put people through the ringer. And it's the ram sign in us, right? And so I think that for me, like, the relationships, we turned every stone. Every guy that I've dated, we've turned every stone. It wasn't just like, oh, you're ugly, so I'm just going to break up with you. Like, it was never like that. None of them ever was. It was just more like, we're going to hold each other back if we stay together. But if we continue to chase each other, even after we've ended it and decided to become lovers, we just can't do that anymore. It's not good for us anymore. 9 times out of 10, the guys have broken up with me, which I appreciate because I'm too chicken shit to do it. But every single time that somebody's left me, I've learned so much about myself and rebuilt myself. That's why I actually celebrate it when people are like, "Oh, I'm single again," and I'm like, "Yes, let's go!" Like I think I told this on a previous podcast. A woman said I got divorced, and the first thing I said was, "Congratulations!" And I felt like such an asshole because I was like, Well, I'm saying congratulations because it's a new life for you.
Well,
it
and if it
brings
was
new meaning.
Yeah, and if it needed to end and you made that choice or it happened, like only great things, like onward and upward is what my most recent ex and I say for each other and to each other. Onward and upward.
Onward and upward.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think, when it comes to relationships, like I value the relationships that I have professionally, without a doubt. Like I'm asked to serve in this. I'm like, my two roles in life is to help people and create jobs, right? Like I really want to help people. I really want them to be successful. And I think my natural my natural place of happiness is connecting people. And so that's where I see relationships really being a part of it. But at the same time, like when you talked about how, like, what are the things, if I left tomorrow, you want your relationships to be intact and those are the things you treasure. To me, it's like the legacy, right? What legacy do I want to leave? What do I want my obituary to look like? It's the greatest factual story that anybody could ever write about you, right?
Except that most of them are
written by a family member.
I would say not factual necessarily at all.
Obituaries?
Yeah.
Oh.
People flower it up, add all the things. Like, I just want someone to be like, this guy was a real son of a bitch. Like, that's...
Oh my gosh.
That can be true, too.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's the best ever of all time once they die.
Yes.
So
that's really fun. I'm like, oh my God.
I was like, we can get more into this in our death episode.
Sure.
But.
Yeah. But going back to, like, for me, what are the importance of relationships for the feeling of success? I think that, key takeaway, right? It's having the right relationships in business are great from a networking, from a connecting your employees, connecting for a quality of work. Like, networking is something I do every day. However, I think that the best entrepreneurs are the ones that are able to not juggle. I hate the word juggle. I say maintain the relationships in the workplace and the relationships at home. Those are the folks that I see really successful, is that they can go home to something that makes them happy, whether it be their dog, their cat, their wife, their husband, their partner, their kid, whatever that is. Like, they might have had a lot of trials and tribulations, but as long as they can go home to something that is a quality relationship that brings them happiness, that to me is the level of success. I see that. I see that, and I admire people when they get to that level. So
that's that holistic success we've talked about.
Where 100%.
It's all of it. Where you go home, and it isn't just like, well, now my work day's done, but it's like you have something to celebrate. In life, which does come through people, and we often forget that connection is a basic human need, just like food and water.
Sure.
Without it, we shrivel up, even actually die. They've done those studies with babies who are never touched, and they actually
they don't
go downhill and they don't make it. Yeah, so that human connection is so important in every area, especially when we're talking holistic success, right? We can't do it without. And I've come to learn, and this I remind myself of often, especially from my stubborn, I'm going to, reinvent the wheel, and maybe it'll be a less good wheel, but it'll be my wheel. Like, I'm so ego-driven in the past. And I tell this to my clients all the time. We can survive alone. We cannot thrive alone. Nobody can. I don't care how strong you are. You just can't. Humans aren't designed that way. So when we're talking success and what's needed for it, I don't know that anything else is higher on the list than our relationships.
Yep, 100%. That is a perfect conclusion to today's podcast. Really appreciate the time as my co-host. The next subject, we have various different subjects that we're talking about. One we're really looking forward to is gender, right? What does gender play a part in success? I know that's a really big one. And then...
Which also shifts up how relationships are handled, too. So 100%. I can't wait for that.
And then one of the other ones is that I'm excited to talk about soon is Monday. I know that sounds really awkward, but like, why Monday? Like, the day Monday can cause greatness or shittiness within 24 hours.
Mondays are important. Yeah. Speaking of relationship, continue yours with us by liking, subscribing, following us here. It super helps grow those followers from one that Kristelle's convinced we have into a community.
And we have moms.
And we have moms, one in our moms and our two moms.
Thanks for listening and thanks for watching.